The first laugh came from a man in a tailored navy suit. It wasn't loud, but in the quiet luxury of the private airport lounge, it was sharp enough to cut. "Excuse me," he said, swirling the ice in his crystal glass. "That mop doesn't belong in here." This was the restricted VIP lounge overlooking the runway at Reagan National, floor-to-ceiling glass, leather chairs, muted jazz humming from hidden speakers. A place where people pretended commercial turbulence didn't exist. 20 people were inside: senators, defense contractors, retired brass. And standing near the window, holding a commercial mop, was a woman in a faded gray maintenance uniform. She looked to be in her late 30s, dark hair tied back in a practical bun, no makeup. Her plastic name tag simply read, M. Cruz. She was wiping down a glass coffee table that was already perfectly clean. The suited man leaned back in his chair, projecting his voice so the room could hear him. "This is a secure lounge, military and federal clearance only, not custodial." A few heads turned. Someone near the bar chuckled. Cruz kept wiping the table, slow, methodical, precise. "I don't think the cleaning staff is cleared for this section," the man continued, his tone dripping with privileged annoyance. "Who authorized you to be in here?" Still no answer. At the mahogany bar, a young Marine captain smirked into his bourbon. "She probably wandered in from the food court." More laughter rippled through the room. Cruz finished the table and moved to the next. Her movements were entirely efficient. Economical, controlled. Across the room, Colonel Everett Shaw, retired Air Force, watched quietly. He didn't laugh. Something about the janitor's posture bothered him. She wasn't acting submissive. She wasn't intimidated by the wealth or the rank in the room. "Ma'am," the suited man said sharply, finally standing up and walking toward her. "I am talking to you." Cruz stopped wiping. She slowly looked up. Her eyes were dark brown, calm, and unblinking. "Yes, sir." Her voice was low and perfectly even. "This area is restricted." "Yes, sir, I know." "So unless you possess a federal security clearance, you need to take that cart and step outside." She nodded once. Then she looked back down and returned to wiping the table. The Marine captain laughed openly. "She doesn't get it. She doesn't speak the language." The suited man stepped directly into her personal space, his face flushing with anger. "Do you understand what the word restricted means?" "Yes, sir." "Then why are you still in my lounge?" Cruz placed the mop against the wall. She turned fully toward him. "I was assigned to this lounge at exactly 19:00 hours. The man blinked, thrown off by her precision. "By who?" She didn't answer him. Instead, her eyes drifted past his shoulder. She wasn't looking randomly. She was counting doors. Windows, entrances, people. At the bar, the Marine captain noticed the shift in her gaze. "Is she profiling us?" he joked. That's when the first TSA agent entered the lounge. He moved quick, focused, hand resting near his radio. Then a second agent stepped through the glass doors. Then a third. The jazz music overhead cut out mid-note. A heavy magnetic clack echoed through the room. The red light above the main glass door flashed once, then stayed solid. Locked. The conversations died instantly. "What the hell?" a defense contractor whispered. The suited man looked irritated, turning away from Cruz. "This is highly irregular. Open that door. I have a flight to Geneva in 20 minutes. The lead TSA agent stood in front of the locked doors and spoke clearly. "No one leaves this lounge until further notice. Step away from the exits." A ripple of genuine unease moved through the room. Colonel Shaw sat forward slightly. He didn't look at the agents. He looked at Cruz. She wasn't surprised. She simply picked up her cloth again and continued wiping the table. The Marine captain stood up. "Sir, with respect, what exactly is going on here?" The TSA agent didn't answer the captain. Instead, he looked past the crowd, directly toward the woman in the gray uniform. "Ma'am, the perimeter is secure." One word, "ma'am," spoken with absolute, undeniable respect. The suited man noticed. "Ma'am," he repeated, his voice faltering. Cruz set the cloth aside. She walked toward the center of the lounge. No rush, no dramatic flair. She reached under the collar of her cheap gray uniform and pulled out a thin, black lanyard. Attached to it was a heavy brass and enamel badge. It wasn't TSA. It wasn't custodial. The room went very, very still. The suited man's face drained of color. That's not possible." The badge bore the seal of the Department of Homeland Security, Counterintelligence Division. Above it was a clearance stripe most of the men in that room had only ever seen in classified briefing slides. Cruz spoke, her voice carrying the heavy weight of federal authority. "3 of you in this room received an encrypted communication from a foreign server within the last 48 hours. Absolute silence. You could hear the air conditioning humming. You believed it was part of a private, corporate negotiation, she continued, her eyes settling dead on the suited man. It wasn't. His jaw tightened. You have no authority to hold me here. I have full authority, she interrupted softly, but with enough edge to cut him off instantly. You have been compromised. The word hung in the air like smoke. Compromised. The Marine captain stared at her. Your counterintelligence? She didn't confirm it. She didn't deny it. I have been working the maintenance rotation in this specific lounge for 6 weeks. Colonel Shaw felt something click into place in his mind. The stillness. The economy of movement. You've been watching us, the colonel said quietly. Yes, sir, every day. The suited man let out a brittle, forced laugh. This is absurd. I'm a federal consultant with a level 4 clearance. Yes, Cruz replied, you are. And you were approached through a shell corporation tied directly to a Belarusian intelligence front. The man took a step back, going pale. That information is classified. So am I, she replied. The contractor with the heavy lanyard stepped back slowly. This is insane. Cruz's gaze snapped to him. You forwarded a draft procurement report from your personal unsecured device at exactly 207 hours this morning. The contractor swallowed hard. I didn't know that it was a hostile intermediary, she finished for him. Ignorance does not protect classified data. The room felt incredibly small now. The Marine captain looked around nervously. Is anyone else compromised? Cruz's eyes scanned the room. 2 more. Colonel Shaw stood up slowly, looking at the woman in the gray uniform with newfound awe. You planted yourself here as the janitorial staff for 6 weeks. Why? Cruz looked at the retired colonel. Because no one sees the person cleaning the room, Colonel. People stop guarding their screens and their mouths when they think the person listening doesn't matter. Silence. No arrogance in her voice. Just pure tactical fact. The suited man's shoulders finally sagged. What happens now? You will be debriefed, she said, fully by my team. And if we cooperate, he asked, his voice shaking, then you made a terrible mistake. And if we don't, her dark eyes held his. You won't get the chance not to, she gave a subtle nod. The TSA agent stepped forward, firm, controlled, no chaos, just procedure. As they escorted the first man toward the side exit, the Marine captain spoke up, his voice tight with embarrassment. Ma'am, I owe you an apology for assuming. A faint, almost invisible smile touched her lips. It happens. Keep your eyes open next time. Colonel Shaw approached her carefully as the room began to empty out. Special agent? He asked. She tucked the heavy badge back under her gray collar. Maintenance supervisor, she corrected gently. He nodded once. I should have known. I've seen that look before, calculating exit routes and threat vectors while everyone else is debating the seating arrangements. A beat passed, game recognizing game. Old habits, Colonel. From where? She met his eyes. Some jobs don't come with uniforms. The last compromised individual was escorted out the side door. The heavy clack of the maglocks echoed again. The red light above the door went dark, unlocked. The jazz music resumed softly. It was as if nothing had happened at all. The Marine captain walked over to where she was standing. Ma'am, what do we do now? She calmly reached over and picked up her mop. Be more careful. That's it. She dipped the mop into the bucket. That's enough. Colonel Shaw watched her return to the window table, wiping the glass again. He stepped closer. Why not reveal yourself sooner? Why let them insult you? She didn't look up from the glass. Because arrogance speaks the loudest when it thinks it's safe, Colonel. When people underestimate you, they get sloppy. And when they get sloppy, they show you exactly who they really are. He nodded slowly. That was a lesson he'd learned the hard way in a different war. She finished the table, placing the mop back in the bucket. The cart squeaked slightly as she pushed it toward the service hallway. Gray uniform, plain shoes, completely invisible. The lounge returned to its polished, elite calm, but something had fundamentally shifted. Because now, every single person sitting in those leather chairs understood something they hadn't an hour ago. The most dangerous person in the room is rarely the loudest. Sometimes, it's the one pushing the mop. If you were in that lounge, would you have judged her by her uniform? Let us know in the comments below. And for more stories of hidden authority and silent competence, hit that subscribe button. This is Stories of Honor.